Lael, I appreciate you coming on. Like I said earlier, it is a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. But I wanted to start here. How did you get into making music? What was your first kind of voyage into this?
Well, I grew up with parents who were really into going to see live music. They were they were really into the Grateful Dead. So I was in utero at a couple of Grateful Dead concerts, I think. So that's where it begins, I guess. But I just grew up listening to records with them, and that was kind of like it just was always part of my life, specifically kind of this, I guess I gravitated more toward this singer songwriter type stuff. My uncle gave me 2 CDs when I turned 13 that were probably the most kind of that was kind of like a turning, that was like a moment that I remember really strongly in terms of my relationship with music personally, and that was Bob Dylan's Blonde on Blonde, and then Joni Mitchell's Blue. So
Those are good
those,
ones.
yeah,
That's a good entrance
yeah,
into it.
he knew what was up with that. So
Very good. Are you a fan of the Grateful Dead now?
um I that's a really, I don't know why that's a hard question for me to answer. No, not really, but it's such a part of my childhood that it's really wrapped up in nostalgia for me.
Gotcha.
So it actually feels really good when it's on, and I know all of it. I mean, it's like I don't know, which live version of uh, Fire on the Mountain it is, but I know it all. So it's like so familiar that I guess I can't say that I don't like it. It's just not the first thing I choose to listen to.
Right.
Are
Probably
you a
like
Great
this.
Dead fan?
Huh? I mean, yeah, I kind of like you. It's like, yeah, if I don't hate it, but I'm not
Yeah,
putting it on. But
yeah,
you be putting it on after like Joni Mitchell and Bob Dylan. I understand that's when you would put it on because you're a really big fan of it. You're just playing coy with us. I know that
yeah,
you're a
yeah.
huge
Sorry.
deadhead. And you
I
said
do.
that.
I do wear I have a my brother was born on Jerry Garcia's birthday, and he died on my birthday. So
Oh,
August 1st and August 9th are his birthday and death day, and that's my brother's birthday and my birthday. So that felt,
you guys are
I
connected.
feel
That's it.
connected to Jerry.
Um, you had mentioned earlier that it was those two albums by Joni Mitchell and Bob Dylan that got you kind of into the music that you were eventually gonna be listening to for a while at least and be interested in and heavily influenced you. What else besides those two that were really influential for you? If you could harken back to those memories of like, oh yeah, that one was also pretty pivotal for me.
Yeah. Um, I mean, it seems so boring, but the Beatles were huge for me, and I was really obsessed with John Lennon. And as he kind of, I guess, musician as artist was what I was drawn to. So like even Joni Mitchell and John Lennon, they were just kind of full picture artists. They weren't
Right.
just musicians, they were activists and painters and drew things and wrote. John Lennon wrote books, and same with Bob Dylan too, I guess. But I was inspired by people who were kind of more than just musician. I was inspired by the person that they were. And I'm trying to, Neil Young was a big one. I mean, it seems so boring to talk about. It's like whatever. I feel like that's what a lot of people were into.
Yeah,
I
because
was,
it's a good doorway. I feel like it's like, yeah,
yeah,
like these things are obviously what I was listening to before, and then I got further into it, or and it got into this and that and the other.
Yeah, and
right?
it's generally probably what most of our parents were listening to,
Sure.
So I feel like that'll be interesting to see what our generation of kids pick
Yeah.
up from what we've been listening to. I don't know.
Do you think that it's gonna leave an imprint the way it did on this generation of young people?
That same music or the music
That
of
same
now?
that
That same
same music, yeah. Because you look at the Beatles, and I mean,
Yeah,
it's still the
they're universal.
sure, and the most popular band to ever live ever, and I don't think anybody will ever take that place, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, but I don't know about other stuff. I mean, I've I do feel like people's consciousness is changing really rapidly, and the things that that we I don't know. I mean, the things that kids now probably gravitate toward are just have different sound. They're maybe more like of a computerized sound, or I don't know what it'll be, but because they're growing up in a completely different world than even we were from our parents, because I didn't even grow up with computers really until I was a little older. So I feel like I I feel like the computer and music and social media are going to create different taste palettes for people, for
Yeah,
kids.
I
Yeah.
could definitely see that happening. Or just kids are like, no more computer, only records, and then that'll be interesting to see.
True. And that's fit. That actually is probably happening. That is happening now. People are getting into records again. So yeah, maybe it'll cycle back.
Only time will tell. Do you have a hypothesis though? Do you want to call it now, and then we'll look back on this in 15 years?
Yeah, and then to know if I'm wrong. I'm certainly wrong. No, I don't have a hypothesis. I guess my hypothesis was that people will have evolved and it'll be that music from the 60s and 70s will be irrelevant. That is, I'll just say that that's my hypothesis.
All right. Well, we will come back here in 15 years. Um, yeah. Only time will tell on that. That'll be interesting to see though, definitely what people are hearkening back to, like these younger generations. When did you first get on stage though? When was that? When did you finally decide, all right, I gotta be a part of music instead of just listening to it now?
Well, I was into theater when I was growing up, so I did plays and um, and I was really into Declamation Day, which was poetry day at our school, and you would memorize a poem and speak it. So I liked it made me terrified, but I was compelled to be like on stage. Um, and then music came pretty like quite a bit later, maybe 18 or something was when I was playing at my college. And I had just been learning cover songs and was really obsessed with Joni Mitchell. And so I was like learning all of her tunings and I liked to sing her songs. So that was mostly what I was doing for for a number of years. And I would perform them, but just at my like college, it was called the Daily Grind Coffee Cafe.
Good deal. Where'd you attend college?
At a school called St. Mary's in Maryland. So
Okay.
it was a small liberal arts college, kind of a hippy dippy school.
Good deal. That's yeah. Did you like it? Did you enjoy your time there? Was it
I
pivotal for
loved it.
you?
Yeah, I loved it. Um,
And then
it
you
was
transferred to Towson, right? You transferred to Towson after that.
definitely not. How do you know where are you from?
I'm from California, Orange County,
Oh,
so I'm not in Maryland.
Towson.
I know these universities. Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's the only one that I
Where
know
where in
of.
California are you from?
Orange County,
Nice.
Anaheim. Yeah,
I'm from
Anaheim
Orange
area.
County, Virginia. I'm in
Oh,
Orange County right now.
very well. Here it is. Here we are.
Yep.
It was meant to be, Lael. I'm telling you, it need to happen at this exact date. But you are originally from Virginia, correct? That's where you
Yeah.
were born and
Mhm.
raised,
Yeah.
but not
Yeah.
schooled. You went to Maryland for that. But besides that,
Right. Born and raised. School
hmm
in Maryland. Then California for most of my adult life.
yeah. What drew you to the West Coast rather than going like to New York or something like that closer to home?
It was a boy.
Isn't it always?
I know. Yeah, it was a guy from San Francisco who lived in San Francisco, and I moved out there the week that I graduated college in Maryland.
The week that you graduated.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
Across
What
the country, yeah.
was he also attending the college as well?
No, he was 10 years older and was a musician in a band. Um, I would say he was another huge doorway into music for me. I don't know if I would have followed it if he kind of um, showed me that it was possible to live as an artist and musician. And I never had even really entertained that thought before. Um,
Were
so
you
he
doing these covers with him? Was he involved with this a little bit at least?
later a little bit, yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, we definitely wrote songs together and performed and uh, and did that for like 2 or 3 years.
Wow, that's a good chunk of time to be doing that. Was it 2 or 3 years leading up to moving out with him, or was that encompassing that
It was like
time?
kind of within that a couple years after. So I think
Gotcha.
that I think that we broke up and I moved to Los Angeles when I was like 23 or 24 or something like that.
Oh,
I
and
don't
that
really
was
remember anything.
from San Francisco. That you
Yeah.
that you moved down. Did you guys drive across country or did you guys fly?
I drove with some friends, so
Ah,
he wasn't even involved in that.
a
Yeah.
nice road trip.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good. And
Yeah.
that's a good way to cap off the time at Towson. That's good. It's great. um, what was going back a little bit? What was the first, or maybe forward? I'm not quite sure. And please correct me if I'm wrong here. But what was the first band that you were in, like a real band that you were like creating your own songs and whatnot?
I guess that actually came a little bit before me performing songs, and that was in high school still. And I played with a drummer. It was just me and a drummer, and we were called Jack O' Lantern Marmalade.
It's a good name.
But we never had any shows. That was the first time I had played with someone else, and then I didn't really do it. And I never really played with a band until I was in Los Angeles, and I started playing with a few guys, and I don't know. I kind of tried it with a band a few times, and it just never really stuck. The
Hmm.
band thing.
Were you working on your own stuff out in Virginia as well, in Maryland, or what did it kind of just start when you were in California?
Yeah, I started writing in college.
Hmm.
That was when I started.
Good deal.
Terrible songs.
It's a good deal. It's terrible songs.
Yeah.
Um, Looking back on them, do you think that you could take anything from those songs? Like, maybe that line would work in something else. That's
No, I
it.
mean, a couple of them are pretty good. They're fine songs, but they stand alone. They stand apart from it. I don't know if I would revisit it really.
Sure. What year did you move down to LA? When did you make that move?
I guess that was around 2011, 2010, 2000. I guess 2011, something
Mhm.
like that. 2011, 12.
And you said I'm done with the north. I'm gonna go south.
Yeah, I really did not like San Francisco. It's not the city for me.
So you moved down there. Did you have any idea, like, all right, I want to move to like this kind of area and try to pursue this music thing, or what was the goal?
Um, well, it's kind of a long story and it might be boring, but the reason that I got down to Los Angeles was that I had gotten set up in San Francisco with Bonnie Raitt's backing band. And so her drummer and bassist recorded some demos with me. And then they were shared with this producer in Los Angeles. And he really liked it. So he funded the next group of recordings. And as we were recording, I was feeling like it just wasn't, I wasn't really ready. And I just didn't have the confidence. And I also felt like it was going in a direction that I didn't really like. So I basically tossed all of those recordings. But I met that producer, and then he kind of became a bit of a mentor in Los Angeles. But he was from a whole other realm of like a very, very different and very Hollywood kind of world. He was quite a bit older. So yeah, he was just kind of a mentor, but he wasn't like a community or friends that I ended up finding in Los Angeles. But he was kind of the anchor point down there, and the reason I moved, and the reason I kind of had the confidence that I could do music at all. So that was a gift.
Did you always feel like you could do music, but you didn't have that confidence, like you were saying before, like in Virginia and in San Francisco early on?
I think so. I think I always wanted to, but I didn't really admit it until later. It took a long time for me to feel like confident still, I
Sure.
don't know. I think a lot of people experience that.
Yeah, that's a common feeling. It's not just you.
Yeah,
Let me
thank
tell
you.
you, it's not. You're just, yeah. I don't know. That's an alien emotion. I don't know how you deal with that, but anyways, um, we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but you paint. You're an avid artist. Is painting your medium that you go to usually,
Yeah.
or
Hmm.
most often rather?
Hmm. Yeah.
Wow. When did you start painting?
Well, I've been painting for a long time because I took watercolor lessons from my grandmother all growing up. So every Saturday, I did like a 3-hour lesson with her, where
Listening
I
to your
mostly,
CDs, sure.
yeah,
Just
exactly. I
taking
was
it
listening
on.
to like Jack Johnson on the CD player and eating candy. But yeah, I definitely didn't, I liked being with my grandmother. Like that was kind of, I did not like sitting still, and I didn't like, she's extremely perfectionist in painting, and like we did still lives and like all this really detailed kind of just basically like a perfect replica of a photograph or a still life. And I just wasn't, I did not have the patience or the interest in any of that. And so I stopped doing art or painting at all until probably like 5 years ago. And I was nannying for a little boy, and he had this like children's poster paint and big vats of it. And then he would paint on uh, grocery bags, like paper grocery bags. And so I sat down with him one day and started painting. And that was what kind of made me realize that I could paint in exactly the way that I wanted to paint. And I didn't have to like paint someone and have it look exactly like a person, like the person or whatever. That so it was like I needed the child kind of to teach me as opposed to someone who knew what they were doing.
That being said, you painted the child that you were babysitting to a T, right? That was like the first thing that you
Yeah,
painted. It
exactly.
was just like verbatim. You're like, oh my gosh, okay. But
Yeah,
besides that, now I can do whatever I feel like doing.
yeah, exactly.
Were your parents into art, or was it mainly your grandmother?
Was my grandmother, actually both grandmothers, but my other grandmother had the lowest self-esteem of anyone that I know, but she had the desire so much to be an artist, but she kind of blocked herself. So that was a good lesson for me, and how you can just spend, like kind of waste your life away having such low self-confidence that you don't even do the thing that you love to do. But I think I didn't really see much of her stuff, but I think she would have probably been a really great artist too. But yeah, from both of them, I kind of saw it. But my parents, not really. My mom's another, like, she's an amazing artist, but she doesn't have any confidence about it. So yeah.
So you gotta set your grandmother and your mother up with the producer guy to build up their confidence.
Exactly.
Not to move down to LA. Yeah. That's it.
They just need to move to LA.
Simple fix.
Well, I try to be that for my mom, because I have a painting of her of tomatoes that she just like, she's only done a couple things, and it's like it's my favorite painting of all of ever, and she won't believe me. So someday I'll reach her.
Well, we said it here, and your mom is an avid listener, so she means it. Okay.
Thank you.
Does your creativity within art and your creativity within music stem from the same place or places?
That's a good question.
I appreciate it.
No, I actually don't think. I think that's why I like having both of them, because when I get dried out or sick of writing songs, the refilling part is doing painting. It does seem to activate a different part of my brain. I actually feel like kind of the songwriting is a little more intellectual. I mean, it's coming from feeling, but it's more like, I kind of think of it more as like writing poetry too. There's a lot of technical, like, kind of thought involved in it beyond just the initial like emotion that motivates it. And then painting is, for me, definitely just, I don't really think about it at all. It's just it's much more kind of free, and that's why I like it, because my mind is always kind of worrying. So it's like a break from all of that. And then I think that each of them informs the other one in some way. Like I do a lot of left-handed writing. I'm right-handed, but I do left-handed writing for the same reason, because it seems to activate a different part of my brain, and different things kind of come through when I do that.
Do you said there's like feeling behind, like when you're writing or trying to write down some poetry or some songs, is there still some feeling within painting? It's just not as, I don't know, just like not as present. It's there, but it's not like up front in your mind.
There's
like
more. I honestly kind of feel like there's more feeling in the painting. It's just not thinking. It's not like I'm going to paint a blah blah blah. It's like I don't know. It feels like it's almost a little easier to convey the feeling without using words.
Yeah, gotcha. Absolutely. Do the things that inspire you to want to paint sometimes help inspire a song? Do those paths ever get crossed at all, or is it again just a kind of separate, like when you're kind of burnt out on doing this, you'll do this, or vice versa?
Yeah, I'm sure it does, because everything's connected, but I don't really see the paintings and the music directly informing each other.
I like that answer. I do. You liked the question before. I like the answer. Moving forward. what tends to influence songs for you? I know it's a pretty broad question, but is there anything that you kind of look towards sometimes that you get inspired by?
Yeah. I think I think that I think part of making anything is that it just gives you an excuse to have uh, your kind of mind and eyes open all the time for maybe little things that that could spark an idea or something. I think about that specifically with taking photographs. I have a very different experience when I go on a walk when I'm carrying a camera than when I'm just walking without a camera, because you start looking at the world as though, like, how could you frame it, or what lens, what what are you what are you trying to capture, what are you trying to communicate? So it's like a frame, basically, writing music. um, and so everything, it could be the smallest little everyday experience that gets dropped into a song. And then if I have, I mean, a lot of the times there's kind of synchronicity. I'll have a one little experience and then another one, then they kind of seem linked to me. So it's kind of like putting a puzzle together.
Mhm.
And I feel like my song, Every Star Shivers in the Dark, is kind of, that's a good example of the process, where it was like I had this experience and then I had this experience, and then they kind of, but it comes from everyday life, and feelings that everyone has, like um, feeling like an outsider or alone, or um, and and then longing for something maybe you can't even really put your finger on. That's another, I feel like that's a motivating theme of my songs.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just a poem or a book I'm reading. All of these things, I think that that's a little bit the more intellectual side of it, and then the feeling comes from just daily, you know, the the ups and downs of a day, or
Sure.
a week, or 2 years of a pandemic or whatever.
That would be interesting to live through. I don't know. That's kind of a little
Yeah,
bit foreign to
very
me. I
fun, I
don't
know.
I don't know, but I can't really attest to that. But yeah, it seems like that would inspire something. If it wasn't for music, let's say that you never picked up the guitar and never made some great songs in high school with that drummer, you know, going all the way back then, do you feel like um you would have a came back around to painting, and B, that painting would be the only thing that you'd be interested in
Hmm,
and not music, right? Or
right.
painting would be like the sole kind of idea of expressionism.
I think that um I'm sure it would, but I honestly feel like if I didn't do music, what I really wanted to do was be an environmental scientist. That was what I thought I was going to devote my life to doing. So maybe I would have gone into like a completely different direction, and been working in the marshlands of the Chesapeake Bay, saving the zebra grass. But no, I don't know. I now I just can't imagine not having multiple things that I like to do. And there's even more that I want to be doing creatively. So I guess I probably, if I didn't have music, painting would be the thing that I would do.
Painting your environment. That's I think
Right,
I that's just
exactly.
me. That's just a thought. That's my theory. I'm just throwing it out there. A
Well,
lot of people, a lot of
I've gotten
landscapes.
I have gotten really into this, it's called the Transcendental Painting Group. And they were artists that were around in the 1930s, and most of them lived in New Mexico. And they were kind of part of this new thought movement, which involved like theosophy and kind of these more spiritual occult studies. But then they were also abstract artists. So they were trying to bring the spiritual into abstract art. But there's an artist named Agnes Pelton, and she makes these beautiful, Georgia O'Keeffe,
Mhm.
I'm guessing.
Yes.
She
Lot of flowers she paints. Yes,
lots of
yes,
flowers.
yes. Hmm.
Yeah. So Agnes Pelton is a similar thing, but hers are abstract, like really big, beautiful colored paintings that are kind of communicating or hinting at another world, or the ability to like be in multiple dimensions when you look out your window at the New Mexico landscape or whatever. But that's kind of my next, if I take any time off from music, I think I'm gonna start maybe trying to paint on really big canvases with color, because I've never done that before.
I
And
think
I've
you're gonna
never
say you're
painted
gonna move
before.
to New Mexico, and that's it.
No, I don't like the desert either.
Um, moving back to your music, your albums, your 2 albums have been put out through Sub Pop, right?
Just one so
One.
far. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. My apologies.
The
We're
other
gonna edit
one,
that out. We're not gonna.
I don't care.
We're gonna do take 2 on that.
It,
So
it looks better.
your 3 albums have been put.
Yeah, exactly.
Just keep on moving on. But was that one album your debut album?
The first one
Mhm.
was, yes. Mhm.
Wow. How did that kind of come about?
You mean the album that I put out that is like self-published, the very first album, or the one that just the Acquainted with Night album?
Acquainted with Night album,
That,
and then
right, that
and
came out with Sub Pop. That I don't even remember the question you asked me. I'm sorry.
I thought I had time to sip water. You really had me. I was like, yeah, okay. Like she just say something. I have time to replenish myself. Not at all. Um, how did that kind of relationship come about? Um how did that happen that they approached you, or you approached them to put this out, that
um,
album?
the guy Blakesley, who produced the album, had sent the album to Sub Pop, and that was in, I think that was in March of 2020, and then we didn't hear anything for a couple months, and by that time I'd moved back to Virginia because the thing that must not be named happened,
I
and
would I would I wouldn't understand, but continue.
and uh, and got an email from Sub Pop saying that they were interested. They'd been listening to the album through kind of the beginning of lockdown and stuff, and they were interested in putting it out. So it was I didn't even know that guy had sent it to Sub Pop. So it was really unexpected, and like definitely a dream come true, kind of pinching myself moment.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was happening right underneath your nose, and you had no clue.
I had no idea. It's how a lot of things happen.
Um, what was moving back to Virginia like for you during the
It was
I'm not gonna I'm not even gonna mention it.
it was a godsend. It was great. It
Was it
was,
early on within the
yeah, it
thing?
was April of that year.
Hmm.
And
Did you drive or
no, flew,
flew?
and we flew on a plane from LAX, big plane, with 7 other people on it. It was like the apocalypse at LAX. It was really surreal experience. And I went from like going outside the door and having to wear a mask, and then needing to get water, where, the mask thing was very weird to me. And the whole city just felt so strange. And I kept calling home, and I was like, are you guys okay with us coming here? To what if we spread the thing, and they were like, what are you talking about? They were like, not even there. We live on a really big farm out here.
Yeah, so they're just like, I don't know what you've been up to, but
yeah, they were like,
that's not us.
we're not worried. Don't worry. Gave big hugs when I got home, and it was like the 2 years I would feel very fortunate were pretty much the same as it ever was here on the farm. So I felt like I was extremely fortunate, and I don't mean to say that to like rub it in people's faces, but
no, it's fine. It's fine. You said there's 7 people on that flight. I mean, like, roughly.
Yeah, 10 total. I think it was something around that. It was very strange. Yeah.
So it was right behind you. You couldn't recline all the way back, right? I mean, that's just a guess. That's just me guessing. But you don't live in LA anymore. That's it. No more LA.
I think that there'll be more back and forth now. There's a kind of a landing spot, a very small room that I'm renting out, that will be kind of make me able to be in both places. So
awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good deal. Have you gotten a sense of what your music career would have been like if you hadn't moved to even California, or Maryland for that matter? If you had never taken that step to move away from home to pursue or doing music, have you thought about how that would have affected it by just being there?
It would have. I'm sure it would have. I was kind of, just from growing up here, going in a kind of an Americana direction. I don't like using that word really, but
yeah, direction. I don't like it either.
There was definitely a kind of bluegrass country folk thing that I grew up in here in Virginia, and that's kind of the music that a lot of people listen to. So I feel like California hugely influenced the way that I write music, what music I like. I mean, I didn't really know anything cool until I got to California, or Los Angeles, really, because the guy I was with was in a jam band in San Francisco. So
we get it. You don't like it. You don't like San Francisco, but you kind of like Grateful Dead, because you're kind of in this weird middle ground.
I know. I really feel like I have to. It's terrible. I feel like I'm rejecting my younger self, but
you definitely are. Yeah, that's it. You said,
sorry, younger self.
I should have just moved to LA in the beginning.
No, it was all part of making me who I am now. So I'm grateful for it all. But yeah, I cringe when I listen to the music that I was writing and sing it the way I was singing. I mean, I have a really strong reaction to affect when I hear it in people's voices. And I feel like that comes from me having to cut through an affect that I was using in singing for a long time. It was like a twangy, country, terrible. So
where can the people find that? No, but do you feel like you're the purest form of yourself now than you've ever been?
Probably, and I probably could purify more. But for right now, what it was taking voice lessons really helped me. And that just kind of showed me what my voice actually was instead of what I wanted it to be, you know, which was incredibly powerful because it affected not only the tone and sound of my voice, but also what I was writing. That was like an interesting side effect of it. It actually, my voice in terms of the words I used was different too.
So nothing really changed, just kind of just more the same. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. We kind of well, not we, you mentioned this a little bit earlier. Guy Blakesy, right? Did I said that guy? Okay, good.
Yeah.
I didn't want to screw up his last name. Yeah, Guy Blakesy, and he has helped you out through your career in this LA kind of portion of it. How did you guys initially meet?
We met because we both were kind of playing shows around, and I think we resonated with each other's work. And then he asked me to sing on a couple songs, and so I started singing on his recordings, and we kind of got to know each other through that. And then he just asked me to open for him a lot, and he kept watching me go from kind of producer to producer, trying to find the right sound and setup. And finally he was just like, well, what I think you need is just a 4-track machine, and I can set it all up, and then this is how you press record, and this is how you stop. This is how if you want to do vocals over it, you can do this. So he kind of gave me the tools to do everything. And we've made this record that will be coming out next year in the same way, but he's been much more involved in terms of instrumentation and arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like built from that.
That's great. And for those who, if it sounds a little bit familiar, his name, he was in the Entrance band for many years, which is a fantastic group.
Yeah.
Who all went on to do great stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody in that band, which is just awesome. And that shirt that you're wearing, Pesos.
I know. Derek's in that band. Yeah.
Derek's in that band. Derek's been on this podcast too, and
nice. He's amazing.
Good.
I listened to a little bit of Ben Schwab's. I love Ben.
That guy. No, just kidding. I love Ben, and his music is amazing.
Yeah.
Sylvie, go check it out. It's fantastic kind of stuff that they're doing over there.
Yeah.
Great stuff. A lot of great music coming out right now.
I know.
I always love to see him. And but going back to Guy, were you a fan of his work prior to working with him? Were you aware of his, like, I mean, because obviously you're in San Francisco, you're on the pulse of what's going on, what's hip and what's not. So you must have.
I was not really, I didn't really know until I think I saw the Entrance band. I had been like hearing him play solo around, and then I saw the Entrance band play at the Satellite. And I was like, what? That's insane. I mean, he was like spinning around on a chair and, just really shredding, but in a very tasteful way. Mm-hmm. Not a jam bandy shreddy way.
It's not like your type of music. I understand.
Yeah, exactly.
That. Yeah. You're like, what? That wasn't even a solo. It was only like a couple of seconds, not a couple of minutes. I know. I get it. Do you guys perform together often, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
or at least somewhat frequently.
Yeah, now that's kind of the setup, is that he plays piano and guitar with whenever I play a live show. So it's nice. That's kind of the first consistent bandmate that I've had. Besides
the drummer from your high school band.
Right, exactly. Right.
Okay. I just want to get, timeline and lineage is important to me. I just want to know what's going on. Do you write songs by yourself, or do you bounce them off other people, or a little bit of both?
I write them myself and then kind of hone them usually with Guy. Just
So a little bit of both. The
yeah,
the the third option that I
the
gave.
third option, yeah.
Do you
See,
do you do you go into a studio, or is it like on a 4 track that you guys are usually working
it's
on?
on a this last one was on a 8-track. Um in
Okay,
our
doubling tracks up. Okay,
yeah.
all right. I'm sorry. All right.
And this time it was mixed only through tape, and without using a computer at all, except to the final, song is on the computer because that's the only way to do anything in this world.
You're
But so that was,
promoting this your hypothesis. That's why that's your hypothesis for the future, because you are a part of it. You just keep on feeding the computers. Okay. All right.
yeah, exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
It's just it's all for greed. Okay, I understand. That is really awesome. It was all analog besides the final steps.
Yep,
Wow.
yep. So
Wow.
that's um so that's cool. I don't really like being in the studio.
Hmm.
I like a very casual, relaxed approach to recording.
What is the most difficult part of recording for you,
Um,
even in this casual setting of yours?
I it's very easy. I mean, the most difficult part would be to me having to set everything up and like figure out cables and all of that stuff. But fortunately, Guy does all of that for me. So it's I would say it's pretty easy, pretty ideal.
That's good. What is the most rewarding part? Is it doing it, or is it getting it done? Or I mean, because the
Well,
because the cable thing is out of there. I understand that. That's
yeah,
not the cable thing, but moving forward.
yeah. I I well, I do only one take, and it's either it's it or it's not, or I do multiple, maybe 2 or 3 takes. And if I haven't gotten it in 3 takes, then I rewind and record over it because it's a waste of tape to have just like a million versions of the same song. Um, so it's extremely feels really good when on the first or second take you're like, oh, that was it. And just knowing that and having the kind of confident feeling of like, oh, that doesn't need to be, I'm not questioning it. It's
Right.
really rewarding. It feels really good. It's like a moment has been captured and it'll never happen like that again. And there's no Frankensteining pieces together. It's just that is what it is. And that's really satisfying.
Yeah, it's always good to get something on like the first try or
Yeah.
two. Yeah, it's within any aspect, whether it be a painting or a drawing or whatever. And I
Yeah.
mean, even outside art, you're like, all right, and
Yeah.
that's done.
First time.
That's
Yeah.
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 Oh,
Yeah. Exactly. So,
I like
and
that answer. Yeah.
there's like a kind of an urgency to it, to like, especially if I don't know a song completely well and I'm trying to record the final version for the record. That's kind of exciting because in the song I'm like, I got to make it to the end. But I think it feeds like this. It feeds a certain kind of energy into the recording, where you're like a little bit on the edge of potentially just like blowing it all. Um, so
It lights that fire underneath you.
yeah,
Do you need that, or do you want that in some kind of a way? Like you like a relaxed environment, but you need something to push
yeah,
against.
yeah, yeah. Needs a little. There needs to be a little tension. Yeah.
Sure. With cables or something like that. So whatever your enemy is, it's got to
Yeah.
be something. You use Omnichord in your songs, though, right? Sometimes
Mhm.
it's prevalent. But how did you get well, I not into it, but how did you begin to like, all right, maybe I can incorporate this into some of my songs?
that was um, that was a gift from a friend of mine who was like, I think you might like this instrument. And I just started playing it. And then I wrote almost all of the songs from Acquainted with Night in the span of a month, maybe. So it just was like a floodgate opened through the portal of the Omnichord. And so I don't know, it's like, it was like love at first sound or something. I don't know. It felt like finding a soulmate. But yeah, that's kind of how the Omnichord came about. And I definitely feel like there's such a thing as too much Omnichord, but it's definitely on this next record that I'm putting out too. So
It's just
hopefully,
Omnichord, right? It's just
yeah,
Omnichord.
it's
Okay.
just, I'm not even singing or saying anything on it. It's just the Omnichord.
Why would you ruin something so
Yeah,
perfect? You
it's
gotta purest form. Um, do you play it live, or I mean it is played live, but do you sit down with it and play it as you're singing, or
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I stand. I have a podium kind of. I stand with the Omnichord.
Little like a strap,
Not a strap, no.
and you play like
I
that.
could, I should.
That's how I feel like I would play it if I could play one and I had to play one live. It's like a
You'd
guitar
have
or
to wear
something.
like lederhosen or something if you were going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you're comfortable in, sure. Whatever makes you play the omnichord the best, that's what you should be wearing in order to play it live. What makes a show good? Is it like the venue itself? Is it the people who are like attentive, or just like the vibe, so to say?
Yeah, all of the above.
Yeah,
Um,
next question.
um, for me, the most important part of it all is connecting with people and feeling like what I'm doing matters to them. That's the most important thing. If 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 that's not happening, it's really a bummer. So it doesn't matter what incredible venue you're in or anything. If I'm not connecting with people, then, but it's like, maybe that's a value judgment I don't need to have. Maybe I'm connecting with one person in the room and maybe it's worth it for that. But it's pretty hard if I haven't if I haven't connected in.
Hmm. So that's like what you're trying to go for. It's like, hey, let's go on this journey, to lack of a better term, together.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
let's all be within this moment together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
But of course, at the same time, I'm not trying to shove my songs down anyone's throat. So I'd rather everyone who's not interested just leave, that would be less offensive than like talking really loudly over the whole thing, which doesn't actually really very, very, very rarely happen. So I feel fortunate for that.
This is an idea for you. Next time that happens, you just downward shut the fuck up. I'm trying to play my omnichord. No, you just blast the volume on the
Yeah.
omnichord. Drown it out. That's just an idea though. So I mean, connection is what you're searching for within
Yeah.
like playing.
Yeah.
um Aside from that emotion, what is the general emotion, like right when you get up there and there's some people that you could tell that they don't know what your songs are like? Is it usually like just kind of like patiently waiting for it to start, or
I just stare at them in
stare them down?
silence. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
you go, you amuse me.
Yeah.
Let's see what you got. It's a power move. I like it. um what is the best concert that you have seen? Or a really good one that you're like,
Yeah,
wow, that's
yeah, yeah.
and it's a little bit hard to
It is
answer.
hard, but actually one comes to mind really strongly, and it was seeing Jason Spaceman, or I guess it was as spiritualized in
Oh, okay.
the desert at Pappy and Harriet's. That was a
Oh,
really powerful show.
wow, they play Pappy and Harriet's.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
that's an
It was
interesting
outside.
kind of. And I know you love the desert, so that's
Yeah.
just the icing to the cake. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really powerful. That was an extremely memorable show.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see why. Whatever, you know, great musician out there at a space. Yeah. Okay. I'm talking about the San Francisco days though. Like what was the do you do anything to warm up before a show? Do you have any, not like rituals, but you're like, I would like to drink some water or something like that before I step up
I
there?
I do voice exercises usually. Um,
Like clearing it, just going like that, or
well, I have like a series of up, 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 like stuff like that, up and down. A little bit of a fruit or honey really helps me right before I play.
do
Something
you have a favorite fruit to eat to do this with? Banana,
just
pineapple.
whatever's in the backstage area, which is usually some like unripe banana. No, I don't know. I oranges often are good. Um, and if not a natural thing, some kind of, even I never drink anything sweetened or anything, but something with a little sugar in it even helps. Like a sip of ginger beer or something.
An RC cola, something like that,
Yeah.
right?
Mountain Dew.
Do you feel more comfortable performing in front of people now than you did, you know, earlier on?
What do you think?
I'm gonna say, since your demeanor is like really abrasive when you're up there with the Omnichord, I'm gonna say that that you have your like,
It's
yeah,
harder
yeah,
now.
yeah.
um no, I have, but sometimes I feel like I've gotten really far. So I didn't mean to make you feel like that was a stupid question. I
Um,
mean, I did mean
I
to.
don't know if you listened to the whole Ben Schwab interview, but the entire thing is stupid. The questions from me, and he goes, yeah, I guess oranges is my favorite thing to eat. No, I didn't feel that way at all.
um no, I feel like I'll feel so comfortable, and then for a string of shows, and then one show I'll just like completely blow it, so it happens so much less often, and I'm so much less hard on myself now than I used to be. So if I mess up or whatever, I'm just kind of like, oh well, whatever. So
Very
I'm
very
learning.
late laissez faire with it now.
Yeah, right.
That's a pesos
That's a
reference.
pesos reference.
That's a
Very
peso
good.
reference. That's a deep cut. Lael, I really appreciate you sitting down with me. It was an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and
Yeah.
thank you for taking some time out of your day to come and sit down and listen to some dumb questions.
I'm not dumb. I appreciate.
No, they're idiotic. That's what it is. That's adjective. No, but seriously, it was a pleasure sitting down and chatting with you. But I do have some promo I gotta get through before we cut you loose here. So your music is streaming everywhere, right? Wherever people use to,
At computers, yes, or
of course,
phones, smartphones.
it's computers, so you'd leave with that. And if the people are interested in seeing and listening to music and seeing your art, it's actually up on your website, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Hmm.
good deal. And
Instagram is probably the most updated.
I was getting to the Instagram.
Yeah. Oh.
To stay up to date with shows and tours and album releases, which is coming up. Um, Instagram best place, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Is there any underscores within the handle, or
Nope, just at Lael Neale.
no underscores? None.
0 underscores.
So I go back on there and there's gonna be no underscores, correct? It didn't seem too confident in that, but we'll see. We'll see what's going on. No, no underscores, just straight across, right? Good deal. And new album coming out soon-ish.
Next
Keep
year.
an eye out.
Yeah, keep an eye out.
And you're going to be dropping singles and whatnot from that as well.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
you got some shows coming up as well. And it definitely, certainly in between that the time of the album release and right now.
Yes. Yes.
So
I
stay
have
up to
one.
date. In what? In a week?
I have one next week. Yeah.
Oh,
In a week.
next week. Okay. How did it go? We're gonna talk like it already happened. How did you like
Yeah.
it? Was it good?
Oh, right.
It was
It's
awesome.
wonderful. It was the best show I've ever
Oh wow. That's good. And that was in San Francisco. Surprisingly, just
seen.
really good show there. Lael, I appreciate you sitting down with me, and yeah, that's it. I have no
Thank you.
other dumb questions. It's
Very nice to meet you.
idiotic questions. Lael, but sorry, real quick. Let me bump my chin on the mic before we end this here. Is there anything else we got to promote before cut you loose here?
I think that's it.
That's it. Okay.
Stay
All right.
free.
Ooh, hey, that's good. That's it. We're ending it there.